The sound of bone breaking against knuckle echoed like a thunderclap across the Lincoln High cafeteria. Trays clattered. Conversations halted. 400 cell phones froze mid-scroll, their cameras now locked on the golden boy of Pittsburgh's wealthiest suburb. Chase Whitmore, star quarterback, crumpled on the ground, his jaw twisted at an unnatural angle. Bacon bits and blood scattered across the linoleum like confetti at the world's ugliest party. But that moment, brutal, unforgettable, wasn't the beginning. It was the end of something far crueler. Just 3 hours earlier, Ariel Thompson, one of only a handful of black girls in a school of 1,500, had been kneeling alone in the music room. She wasn't praying like she used to in church. Those days felt distant now, but she was centered, breathing through the nerves, bracing herself for another war disguised as school. Lincoln High wore its prestige like armor, gleaming trophies, glossy newsletters, banners about diversity and inclusion. But for girls like Ariel, the truth was buried under silence and side eyes, under whispered jokes and hallway traps. And for 3 relentless years, no one had sharpened that cruelty more than Chase Whitmore, the boy she once rejected at homecoming. He never forgot. And he made sure no one would let her forget either. But what Chase didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Ariel came from strength. From a grandfather who taught her more than just resilience. He taught her when to rise. And on that ordinary Tuesday, with the scent of grease and hatred thick in the air, Ariel would show the whole school what happens when silence grows teeth and finally bites back. History class always carried a strange tension for Ariel. It wasn't the subject she loved, history. It was who taught it and who sat in the back of the room whispering behind her. As she slipped quietly into her seat, Ms. Hawkins, a sharp but kind-eyed teacher, was setting up the projector. Beside Ariel sat her only real friend, Raina Brooks, sharp-witted, loyal, and always ready with a comeback girl. Raina whispered, elbowing her, "You see what Chase posted last night?" Ariel shook her head. She'd blocked him long ago, but that never stopped the reach of his cruelty. "Don't check it," Raina warned. "It'll just piss you off." Ms. Hawkins turned down the lights and began her lecture on resistance movements during World War II. "Today, we discuss the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising," she said, her voice carrying weight. "Who can tell me how it started?" Ariel's hand rose automatically. This wasn't just a textbook subject. This was personal. "The uprising began on April 19th, 1943, she said, her voice calm, confident. "The Jewish people inside the Warsaw Ghetto resisted Nazi forces with homemade weapons and fought for 27 days. That was longer than the entire Polish army held out." Someone snickered in the back. Probably one of Chase's football crew. But Ariel didn't stop. "My great-aunt fought in that uprising. She was 17. She died throwing Molotov cocktails at German tanks." Silence. For the first time in weeks, Ariel's words settled heavy across the room. Even the usual hecklers didn't speak. Sometimes she added, rising slowly from her seat, "Standing up matters more than winning." A slow clap began from Raina, then others followed. Ms. Hawkins didn't stop them. But near the door, Chase Whitmore was watching. His phone already in hand, thumbs moving fast. The caption would read something smug, something hateful. But the smile he wore wasn't just about humiliation anymore. It was strategy. By lunch, Ariel's locker had already been vandalized. Someone had written "Know Your Place" in red marker and drawn a noose beneath it. Mr. Ellis, the janitor, stood nearby, scrubbing what he could. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," he muttered. "I'll get this off quick." "It's the 52nd time," Ariel replied, her voice low. 52. He paused, looking at her. "You're keeping count?" "I stopped counting the first year," she said. But the truth was she hadn't. She remembered every incident, every slur, every smirk. Whispers followed her through the hallway. Something was coming. A prank, a trap. Chase's crew couldn't keep their smug anticipation hidden. Every hallway corner felt like a fuse burning toward an explosion. And then in calculus it appeared. On her desk sat a ham sandwich open-faced, slick with grease, the stench filling the room. Ariel stared at it, unmoving, her fists clenched under the desk. She knew this wasn't random. Back home, her grandfather was deteriorating. Alzheimer's. Some days he barely recognized her. But when he did, he told stories about growing up in segregated Alabama, about learning to box in the Navy, about never backing down when the world tried to erase who you were. That night, Ariel visited him at the care center. He was lucid for once, eyes sharp like glass. "They're coming," he whispered. "Boys who hate. You gotta know when to fight back." He took her hand, calloused, trembling, then stood stronger than he had in months. "Come here," he said. "Let me show you something." For 10 minutes, he trained her, slowly, deliberately. The cross punch, he explained, where jaw meets skull. One shot. They drop. But only when they give you no choice. She left that night with her knuckles aching from the heavy bag in his room, and her heart heavier still. Back at home, she found the video Raina warned her about. Posted by Chase, it showed a slow-motion clip of her from lunch, edited to make her look flirtatious. The caption, "Operation Bacon Day, Who's Hungry?" It had over 200 likes, all football players. But then something unexpected happened. A message popped up from Brittany Warren Chase's ex. "I know we've never talked, but they're planning to force-feed you pork tomorrow." He's calling it breaking the black Jew. Those are his exact words. "Please, don't go to lunch tomorrow." Ariel stared at the message until the words blurred. She should have been afraid, but instead she remembered her grandfather's voice. Sometimes the world forces you to choose between being a victim or being a fighter, and she'd already made her choice. She went into the garage, taped her fists, and hit the heavy bag again. Thud. Thud. Turn from the hip. One shot. They drop. The world had no idea what was coming next. But Ariel wasn't backing down. Not anymore. Morning arrived, dressed like a storm. At Lincoln High, the air buzzed with anticipation, the kind that crackled before something irreversible. Whispers flowed like electricity through the hallways. Students clustered near lockers sharing nervous laughs, but their eyes kept flicking toward Ariel Thompson. They all knew something was going to happen. Ariel moved through the crowd with quiet focus. Her hoodie was pulled tight over her braids, her backpack slung low. Raina caught up with her outside homeroom. "Ari, listen. We have to tell someone. Go to the principal. Go to Hawkins, please." "They won't help," Ariel replied flatly. "They never have." Raina hesitated. "Then at least let me stay with you during lunch." Ariel smiled softly. "You're the only reason I've made it this far, Raina. But today, I need to do this on my own." The bell rang. By fourth period, Miss Hawkins pulled Ariel aside. "I want you to know," she said gently, "I've documented every incident. I'm taking it to the school board tonight." "Please don't," Ariel said quickly. "It'll only get worse. They'll just cover it up. Chase's uncle is the board." Miss Hawkins clenched her jaw. "That doesn't make it right." "I know," Ariel replied. "But justice isn't their language." Lunch came like a loaded gun. Raina was already at their usual table in the far corner. She looked up, scanning the cafeteria. "Something's off," she muttered as Ariel sat down. "Half the football team's here, and it's not even game day." Ariel didn't respond. Her eyes moved slowly across the room. She saw them, the orchestrators, spreading out, forming a casual circle of muscle and arrogance. And at the center, Chase Whitmore, lounging like royalty, confident and cruel. Her phone buzzed. 3 messages. All from an unknown number. 5 minutes, Black Jew. "Hope you're hungry. Your grandfather ate worse in the camps, right time to choose your food groups." Ariel turned her phone off. Her heartbeat was steady like a drum counting down. The cafeteria began to hush. Phones came out. The modern sign that something viral was about to happen. Raina tensed. "We need to leave now." Too late. Mason Blake, tight end, and professional lackey appeared with a tray. "Hey, Ariel," he said with fake charm. "Brought you lunch." On the tray was a bacon cheeseburger, stacked high grease, shimmering under fluorescent lights. "I already ate," she replied, calm. "That's weird," Mason grinned. We saw you toss your salad untouched. The circle tightened. Raina tried to stand, but hands pulled her back down. This doesn't involve you, someone said. The hell it doesn't, she snapped, fighting against them. And then Chase stepped forward. Everything stopped. He strode toward their table with his usual swagger, his white varsity jacket practically glowing under the lights. Ariel, he announced, voice booming across the cafeteria. We need to talk about your attitude problem. We have nothing to talk about, she said, her voice steady. See, that's where you're wrong, Chase said, lifting the burger. You think you're better than us? All your top grades, all your little Holocaust speeches. But you're not special. You're just another mouth that needs to learn its place. A sharp gasp swept through the room. Even his teammates shifted uneasily. 2 years ago, he had asked her to homecoming with flowers and all. She declined politely, citing her beliefs. And ever since, he'd made it his mission to break her. Now he wanted to finish it publicly. I keep kosher, she said quietly. Yeah, well, your granddad didn't have that option in the camps, did he? Chase said, sneering. He ate whatever they gave him and survived. So will you. She saw it now, the calculation in his eyes. He wasn't trying to provoke her. He was trying to annihilate her identity. You're sick, she whispered. And you're about to get educated, he smirked. He nodded. 2 boys grabbed her shoulders. Destiny screamed. This is assault, someone cried. But no one moved. Every student just kept filming. Then Chase leaned in. 1 bite. Or we do it the hard way. He grabbed her face. And then time stopped. In her mind, Ariel heard the voice of her grandfather. Where jaw meets skull, 1 shot they drop. Her feet planted. Hip turned. Fist clenched. And in that moment, a girl who had been humiliated for years launched the punch that would change everything. Her fist connected with Chase's jaw, in a sharp, perfect arc, just as her grandfather had shown her. Where jaw meets skull, 1 shot, they drop. The sound wasn't just a thud, it was a thunderclap. Bacon flew like confetti. Chase's eyes rolled back as his legs buckled beneath him. His championship ring scraped the linoleum as he collapsed in a heap, unmoving. For a breathless moment, Lincoln High's cafeteria stood still. Then, screams, gasps, the clatter of phones hitting tabletops, followed by 100 cameras scrambling to get the angle. Some were already uploading the footage. Ariel Punch was born in real time. Raina was the first to move, pushing through the circle and rushing to Ariel's side. Girl, she said, breathless, we gotta go, now! But Ariel didn't move. She was staring at the floor at Chase's phone, which had fallen face up. Notifications kept pouring in. 1 message preview caught her eye. It was labeled Mom Don't Delete. She didn't have time to read it. Mr. Thomas, the assistant principal, came sprinting in, followed by a frantic Principal Harrington. Behind them, Greg Whitmore. Chase's father burst through the double doors in his tailored Navy suit and crocodile shoes, his usual arrogance crumbling into alarm. What happened? He barked. Your son Ariel, said, her voice echoing across the now dead silent room, tried to force-feed me pork. I defended myself. She broke his jaw. Harrington shouted. This is assault. Call the police. Already done, someone called, and it's already on TikTok, 50,000 views and counting. Greg lunged toward his son's phone, but Mr. Adams, the history teacher, was faster. This is evidence, he said, lifting the phone. You want to explain the text from his mom? Looks like the FBI has it all now. Greg froze. What are you talking about? Adams held the phone up. Looks like your ex-wife sent everything to the authorities. Videos, medical records, years of abuse. You don't understand, Greg began, but a calm police officer interrupted. Sir, anything you say can and will be used against you. We need to ask you a few questions. Outside, the flashing lights of ambulances and news vans were beginning to arrive. Chase was still unconscious, his face grotesquely swollen, blood mixing with grease beneath his cheek. Paramedics moved quickly, stabilizing his jaw. Harrington tried to regain control. Delete the videos, that's school property. It's too late, a student said, holding up their phone. The student-run page posted everything. Every prank, every message, even the video of you meeting with Greg in the parking lot, with the envelope. What envelope? The officer asked sharply. Harrington's face turned from red to ghost white. In the hours that followed, Lincoln High's dark underbelly unraveled. A secret group of tech-savvy students released years of footage and screenshots, evidence of bullying racism teachers looking away and backdoor bribes from the Whitmore family to school staff. By evening, Ariel Punch had evolved into #justice for Ariel. The punch was just the beginning. That same night, a woman no one had seen in years went live on national TV. "My name is Vanessa Whitmore," she said, looking directly into the camera. "I am Chase's mother, and I want to tell the truth." She exposed it all. The abuse, the cover-ups, the manipulation of custody courts, the culture of silence. "Chase didn't become like this on his own," she confessed through tears. "He was taught by his father, by this school, by everyone who looked away." Then she turned to the camera and said softly, "Ariel, I saw the video. I'm so sorry. You did what I couldn't. You fought back." The internet exploded. Colleges rescinded scholarships. Businesses cut ties with the Whitmores. The principal was suspended, pending investigation. 17 other students came forward with stories of being harassed by Chase's crew. But Ariel didn't celebrate. She spent the evening at Shady Pines Memory Care, holding her grandfather's hand. He was having one of his clear moments, eyes full of pride. "You remembered?" he whispered. Ariel nodded, where jaw meets skull. He smiled. "My mama would be proud. You didn't let them shrink you." She squeezed his hand. "I was scared, Zay." "Good," he replied. "Courage ain't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right despite the fear." He closed his eyes and fell asleep with her hand still in his. Outside, the world kept turning, but something had shifted for Ariel, and for every student who watched her stand tall in the face of hate. The fight was far from over, but the silence, it was finally broken. 6 months later, the cafeteria floor was clean again, but Ariel Thompson's name still echoed in those hallways, not with mockery, but with quiet respect. She hadn't returned to Lincoln High. The school had a new principal, new policies, and for the first time a zero-tolerance stance on hate. But Ariel had outgrown its walls. Her story had outgrown it too. Instead, she spent her afternoons in a once-abandoned warehouse on the city's south side. A banner hung outside the entrance in bold, hand-painted letters, "Sarah's Strength. Free self-defense for everyone." Inside, the space buzzed with energy. 200 kids, black, white, Latino, Jewish, Muslim, immigrant, queer, practiced drills in borrowed GIs and mismatched sneakers. Some were barely 8, others seniors on the verge of adulthood. All of them carried something: scars, silence, shadows. Ariel stood at the front of the class, barefoot on the mat, her voice steady. "Today," she announced, "we're going to learn the cross punch. But before we do, let's talk about when to use it." A small hand shot up. "When bullies won't stop," a boy asked. Ariel paused, then nodded. "Sometimes. But violence is the last resort. First we use our words. Then we find adults we trust. We document everything. We stand together." She stepped closer to the group voice, growing firmer. "We only defend ourselves when we're truly in danger, understood?" "Yes, Sensei," the room echoed. She smiled. She wasn't a real sensei. Not yet. But after 6 months of training with real instructors, she had earned their trust, and more importantly, the kids. She moved down the rows, adjusting stances, helping correct elbows, reminding them power comes from the hip. Rotate your whole body. One clean shot, that's all it takes. In the back of the room, familiar faces watched proudly. Raina helping the younger kids tie their belts. Mr. Adams volunteering as a coach and mentor. Even some of Chase's former victims now learning to stand tall together. And in a quiet corner, in a wheelchair, but sharp-eyed as ever, Zay, her grandfather. Watching his granddaughter lead a movement she'd never asked for, but had earned with blood, courage, and conviction. The news crews had stopped showing up weeks ago. The viral fame had faded. But the kids kept coming more each week. Some came with bruises, others with stories they couldn't yet say out loud. But all of them left with something powerful, the knowledge that they were not alone. During a break, as Ariel handed out water bottles, a young man approached slowly. He wore a hoodie, a baseball cap pulled low, his steps cautious like he didn't want to be seen. She turned. Chase? Her body stiffened, reflexes sharp, but he raised his hand palms open, trembling. I wanted to apologize, he said quietly. In person. He took off his cap. The jaw had healed mostly, but a faint scar still curved beneath his ear, one the surgeons hadn't fully erased. I know what I did was unforgivable, he continued, but my mom, she told me to try anyway. Ariel said nothing. I've been in therapy, working through it. What my dad did to me, what I did to others. You didn't deserve any of it. No, she said, I didn't. He flinched, but nodded. I know you probably hate me. I don't hate you, she said firmly. I nothing you. You're just someone who hurt me once. That's all you'll ever be to me. He swallowed. Fair. I just wanted you to know what you did that day. It didn't just stop me. It saved me from becoming him. He turned to go, but Ariel didn't watch him leave for long. Her focus returned to the matsto, the kids, to the movement she was building. All right, she called. Back to positions. Let's run it again. Remember, power comes from the hip. 200 voices rose in unison, fists slicing through the air like a wave of determination. And somewhere deep inside, Ariel felt it again. Not the fear, not the anger. Freedom. She caught her grandfather's eye. He nodded once. Sarah would be proud. Because sometimes, yes, one punch can change everything. But what matters more is what you do with that change. As the final round of drills ended, the students lined up sweaty but smiling. Ariel clapped her hands. Great work today, everyone. You didn't just show strength, you showed control, unity, and heart. That's real power. As the crowd thinned and laughter echoed across the mats, a little girl tugged at her sleeve. Miss Ariel, she whispered, will I ever be brave like you? Ariel knelt to meet her eyes. You already are, she said gently. Bravery isn't about fighting. It's about knowing who you are and never letting anyone take that from you. Outside, the sun dipped low behind the warehouse, casting golden light through the open doors. Inside, 200 kids gathered their things, not just carrying water bottles and backpacks, but carrying something invisible, belief in themselves. Ariel stood at the doorway, watching them go, her heart full. Not with anger, not even with triumph, but with peace. Sometimes the world will try to shrink you, twist your identity into a weapon against you. But your strength doesn't lie in how hard you hit back. It lies in knowing your worth, standing your ground, and turning pain into purpose. One act of courage can spark a movement, but it's compassion and conviction that keep it alive. What about you? Have you ever stood up for yourself or someone else when it mattered most? Tell us in the comments. We want to hear your story. And if this moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs to remember their power today. Because together we fight fear with truth, and fear never wins.